Welcome to Casa de Confidence, a podcast for you. You'll hear some incredible women
and some awesome, cool dudes
going confidently in the direction of their dreams and living in the purpose of their heart.
You're our host,
Julie DeLucca-Collins, and you are our sidekick. Hashtag handsome hot husband.
That again.
And the producer of the show.
That I am.
I am an author, speaker, coach, dreamer, and most of all,
we help people go in the direction of their dreams
and support them on their purpose. So pull up a chair,
grab a drink,
and make yourself at home because our casa
is your casa. Welcome back, or welcome to Casa de Confidence. Hi, Julie.
Hello, Daniel Collins.
How are you today?
I am, I guess, rested.
Yeah.
Although, when I fell asleep last night, and we went to bed a little late for the two of us, you stayed up late because we were watching a movie.
Yes.
I don't know if I liked the movie at all.
It was
Not
artsy.
art. I wouldn't call it artsy.
It was a little artsy, but it was a little, it was like, it was dark, a little dark. It's called Challengers. It's a tennis movie.
I thought it was called tennis.
No, it's called Challengers.
Challengers. Yeah. Interesting.
So it wasn't dark. It was, but it was dark on a personal type of level, but it ended well, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough about that. I want to talk about my sleep because I fell asleep and then shortly thereafter, like I thought I heard I heard a door open, and at the same time, when I sat up in bed, one of the dogs barked, which he only barks when he hears a noise. And I thought, oh, what if we're being robbed? Why is it that my brain goes to the most negative of things? I don't know. Why is it?
Well, because we have 60,000 thoughts in a day, and 80% of those are negative thoughts.
Wait, your math is off.
No, it's not.
You just said 60,000.
We have 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah. And you said 80,000?
80% of those
80% of the thoughts. Sorry.
Are negative. Hold on. I think it's 80. And then 90% of those negative thoughts are about yesterday.
Okay. This is a study done by who?
I hold on. I'm going to look it up.
You're going to look it up now?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Hold on.
Guys,
hold please.
Sit in silence.
According to some sources, 80% of a person's thoughts are negative, and 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. So they're about what you thought before. Yeah. This means that the average person has around 9,600 thoughts per day.
You know why I think that is?
Why?
Because we're designed to protect ourselves.
Well, sure, we're designed to, to protect ourselves.
So you look at your environment subconsciously, and you're protecting yourselves from the negative things. So, I mean, that's the condition of humans, protecting themselves subconsciously.
And by the way, that's according to the National Science Foundation. I found the
National Science Foundation. Okay.
And then, so here's some examples of negative thought patterns, and I want to know like which ones are the most common for you, and then I'll share the ones that are most common for me.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Number 1, pessimism.
No.
Our mental I can't speak today. Our mental filter focuses on the negative. We may minimize the positive and may spiral into depressive thinking. And that is also catastrophizing. When you make small problems, big problems, or worst case scenarios, assuming the worst will happen.
Well, that's you.
No, I am not catastrophizing. That's rude.
I'll sneeze. I sneeze. You're like, are you having a heart attack?
Dan, I only catastrophize, I suppose, about you. You know why? Because
you love me.
Because I love you. And I also, worry. And I guess my mind is not at ease that you are in good health.
Okay. All right. Next.
Okay. Rumination. Repetitive thoughts in which your brain tends to get stuck on negativity. Individuals may find that they have a hard time moving on. They may struggle with obsessions. Do you ruminate?
I don't have a lot of negative thoughts.
Whoa, you must be like an anomaly in the human race. Why do you? I think you have negative thoughts.
I think I'm an eternal optimist.
You are an optimist, but you do have negative thoughts that you're just not aware of.
I have all of those things do occur, but not constantly.
Okay. Yep. But I would venture to say that for most of us, we get stuck in some of these more than others. Now, I will tell you.
Is that the only ones?
Well, here's one more.
Okay, one more.
Perfectionism. Placing unreal high standards on self, and individuals might find themselves being hypercritical, feeling like a failure when standards are not met. Negative and repetitive thought patterns are present in both anxiety and depression. So
I think the perfectionism actually, this is the thing. If you look at all those things you just mentioned, there was four conditions, right?
Pessimism, rumination, perfectionism, and pessimism. In there, you have the catastrophizing.
So what I'm thinking is that whatever your dominant one is the one that may lead to the others.
Sure.
So therefore, I think
in our untrained mind.
So what I'm saying is that I'm probably more of a perfectionist.
You think?
But the failure of being perfect can lead to the other three.
I think you're right. You probably are out of the three, and I wouldn't call you a perfectionist in the way that I am a perfectionist.
But there's one caveat to this, though.
What's the caveat?
I am such an optimist because, I'm a perfectionist and I'm nearly perfect. So why would I have a negative thought?
Oh, my God, for the love of God. Okay. Number one, do you set unrealistic standards for yourself?
Do I? Occasionally, yes.
Well, I see how you spend a lot of time being very meticulous with everybody's, show and everything that you edit and the clients that you're working for.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, it is important. And I don't think, I'm not saying we shouldn't be perfect, but where do you draw the line and let it go?
Where do you draw the line?
You
provide the service that's expected of you. Yeah. And you need to exceed those expectations a little bit. In some cases, if it's easy to truly exceed, to blow the roof off that house, you do it. Well, but if it's not something that is expected and it is... it takes up your time in a way in which it's detrimental to your health, your business, your life, then you got to know when to cut that off a little bit.
Yeah.
This is good enough. It exceeds what was expected, and this is wonderful. It's this whole balance thing.
There's no such thing.
No, I reject that notion.
What do you mean you're rejecting this notion?
Well, there is such thing as balance.
There is such thing as balance?
Balance is hard, though.
I don't know. I think the listeners need to tell us if they agree with you or with me. I say no.
There's balance. There's the balance you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Life, work, balance and stuff. You call it life, work, blend. Balance is more rigid in where it takes incredible focus to balance. Think about the Karate Kid.
What about the Karate Kid?
Part of the message in the Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel, balance. You have to have balance, but that balance is very rigid, and it's in a. I'm watching Cobra Kai, which is the spinoff of that, and I think they're learning that balance is rigid. So there's such thing as that, but it takes incredible focus, and that incredible focus, if it's what you want, that's what you give to it. But that focus on that one thing of balancing can take you away from other things. And I know that's what you talk about when you talk about blend, when you're blending your work life and your personal life. Sometimes in one season, you'll be weighted one way more than the other, and that's fine. And that's my thoughts on that. You can choose to take the balance approach, but that balance approach is you're gonna miss things that you could have blended in there. It's just like people who are thinking black and white. There's a lot of grays and wonderful, vibrant colors in the world that you might miss if you're just looking through a black and white filter.
Do you look through a black and white filter?
I used to.
What changed?
Me, wiser, older.
Wiser. That's interesting.
Open yourself to other possibilities.
I will say you definitely have changed in the years that I've known you because Dan, we've had a lot of conversations this week, and a lot of the conversations that we've had, the things that you've said have been not about, like that's not what Dan would have said before. So I'm proud of you for evolving, but I want you to know that evolution only happens when we aspire to change. So, and you know what aspirations do for us?
What?
They give us a roadmap to then create the actions that lead to becoming the person we aspire or to have the thing we aspire.
Gotcha. Hey, Julie.
Yes, Dan.
This is a great conversation.
But
we have a guest today.
Well,
and it's funny that you spoke earlier about sleeping because our guest today, from the Tiny Habits community, speaks about resting and sleeping.
Yes, he is brilliant. And I brought him over, and this is Glen Lubbert, and he's the founder of the Stamina Lab, which helps individuals improve energy, focus, and resilience through data-informed sleep and healthy coaching. Do you think you're a good sleeper?
I'm a great sleeper.
Do you think you have healthy sleep?
Well, I wear my CPAP in order to do that.
Okay.
Sometimes I have less healthy sleep than other times.
Yeah, I agree. Having a sleep hygiene routine is very important. And I think that this is the one thing that for many years, right, I took for granted. I was just very haphazard in life. And by the way, what I would like to encourage the listeners, if you are checking out this episode, you're going to love it, first of all, because Glen is a fantastic person. He is just really easygoing. But what I love the most is that we talked about tiny habits. We're both part of Tiny Habits. And I want to dig into this conversation because you need to learn more about Glen and the work that he's doing.
I hope you enjoy this episode with Julie and Glen Lubbert.
Welcome back to another episode of Casa de Confidence, your home for all things confidence. I want to tell you that as a Tiny Habits coach, one of the greatest pleasures that I have is that I get to meet some other incredible Tiny Habit coaches. And again, I meet a lot of incredible coaches, but my heart is with the Tiny Habits community. They do such incredible work in pouring into themselves, and then they're changing the world one habit at a time. Today, I have the second Tiny Habits coach with me because I'm not counting Linda Boggs. But Glen Lubbert, thank you for joining me today. I'm not going to read your bio. Tell me what you want the audience to know from you.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show, Julie. And yes, I'm a Tiny Habits coach. I'd say that, and I totally echo your comments because it's not just about wanting to share great knowledge and information, but how do you actually implement it in your lives? And I think that's one of the fantastic things about the Tiny Habits community is that people are actually implementing this into people's lives. And so my main focus is with my company called Stamina Lab. And our mission is to help people fuel more energy, focus, and resilience in their lives for a lifetime so they can do more of the things they care about for the longest health span, so they can do it when they actually are able to have this energy and focus. And that can be whatever they choose to do. And just like with the Tiny Habits, it's what do you enjoy doing? Let's start there. And my passion and the work we primarily do to help that is around sleep and sleep coaching, sleep training. And sleep is not everything, but it impacts everything. So I think that's just really something key to understand. It's not everything, but it impacts everything. So when we work on sleep, we actually work on everybody's full day, because to impact sleep, we're actually working on the full day. And for me, it's been something that's been, it's the keystone habit. We learned about keystone habits and tiny habits. And the keystone habit is a habit that allows you to do work on that one habit, but then it has a ripple effect throughout the rest of your life. So yeah, my background is a serial entrepreneur. and the tech world and the health tech world. Ran a great startup, and when I started when I was 25, didn't know what I was doing. It's like we talk about it being like on a growth startup that you have just your hands on the back of a rocket and just holding on, or and did that. And to do that, it sometimes takes a lot out of you, especially for young entrepreneurs. And I advise them, and this is something I really focus on. And it could easily lead to burnout. So that road led me down to behavior design and to tiny habits, and then to how do I leverage these tiny habits and the behavioral design into something that can really impact you. And sleep was an area that I really wanted to focus on.
Well, where have you been my whole life? I will tell you that sleep has been sort of this elusive thing, and then it became a better thing. Then I shifted my mindset around it, and I have definitely improved some of my sleep hygiene, but I am terrible at something else that I'll tell you about. And I want to dive into that. But I agree with you too. The sleeping and being able to get rest, being able to replenish your mind and give your mind that ability to sort of rest. And although we're not really resting, right? Because our mind and our brain is still working. But what is the connection for individuals that are listening? What is the connection between sleep and our brain working better?
Yeah. So this is fundamentals for us to be able to have the creativity, the innovation, the focus, the empathy, the ability to be able to be calm and understanding, to be able to work with people in your work life and your home life and your friends, everything in just a much more powerful way. Yeah. Sleep happens in stages. And the stage that we're talking about for your brain recovery is the last stage of sleep. And we go through those stages multiple times in a night. The early stages are deep sleep, and this is where you're really more replenishing your body. This is the activities that you did during the day. But REM sleep, that's where the genius lounge comes into play. And as a neuroscientist, there's a book called the butterfly, the net and the butterfly, yeah. Okay. And they refer to it as the genius lounge. And
I like that.
Yeah, at night the genius lounge happens, and this is when you get Einstein and Socrates and pick your favorite scientists. They all come out, and they start going and say, what did Julie work on today? What was her big problems? And let's take our genius work and let's start talking about the lava lamps come on, the chalkboards come out, and
love it.
And they're working on your problems for the day. And they're like, let's go back to everything that Julie already knows. And we'll pull that information up. And let's look at everything she learned today. And we're going to meld those two together. And so you have the mental models that you learned during the day and the ones that you had before, and you create this new set of mental models. And this happens in this REM sleep time period. And we go through this cycle multiple times. So the very first time, it's just a preview. The geniuses are kind of cranky. They only want to come out for a little bit. And they're like, okay, yeah, we know we have to get to this. And then the more cycles you go through, the longer the time period happens. And you're in this REM state because that's when you start dreaming. And your last portion of the night is when you're going to get your longest amount of REM sleep. So you might often remember your dreams because they happen almost right before you wake up. And that's why getting that 7 to 8 to 9 hours of sleep is so important, because that's when you get the most power of your genius lounge time period.
Wow. I have to say, I'm loving how you are referring to this as that genius lounge. I know that when I go to sleep, and as I'm getting into bed, if I'm really working through something and I am not sure, what my next step is, I typically will tell myself, okay, how can I And I start to kind of think, okay, let's come up with a solution. And I remind myself that this is the time. And some of my best ideas really have come from that time. I had a teacher, I had a professor in college that made us, and this is Psych 101, by the way, my first class that I ever walked into. And he said, I want you to get into the habit of keeping paper and pen next to your bed. And when you wake up, keep a dream journal. And to this day, right? I have a journal next to the bed. I will say I'm not as good as using it in the middle of the night because I'm sort of half asleep. I will grab my phone because it's easier, which is not a very good habit. And I will write down whatever is there. First thing in the morning, yes, I will journal with my actual paper and pen. But I have gotten very good at waking up, sitting up a little bit and thinking, what was I dreaming about? And going through and kind of dissecting that. Because to me, it gives me some insight, right? Even in things that I wasn't aware that were going through my brain, right? And that to me is very powerful. Do you find that people who are aware of their dreams are able to maybe rewire their brains or create better, working conditions for their brain?
Well, I think that you can go down trying to be aware of your dreams and try to look at what they mean. And if you really just want to unlock your creativity and innovation, the old adage, let me sleep on it. That is basically saying, let me let my geniuses work on it.
Yeah.
And the ideas will come to you. And I think it's more about those aha ideas in the morning rather than because what's happening when you're dreaming is it's doing several things. But like I said, it's creating the mind map from what you learned today, and it's infusing it into your long-term memory and creating your new mind map. It's also doing emotional regulation. So there's these things called spindles, or let's say they're the spikes of emotion that you have throughout the day, and they're smoothing those out. So that way, anything that was really troubling and harsh, it allows it to be a little more understanding, a little more useful without having to have to deal with the emotional baggage that comes with it. So that's why his dreams can be all over the place, because it's softening those rough edges. And so I don't spend too much time on the actual and this is the dream repeats on what the real deep contents of the dream are. I just trust that what is happening is happening for me to best understand what happened during the day and how I can be most effective in the future. It's basically when you get this REM sleep, if you went through basically a full day of learning and training and then you didn't get that REM sleep, you could have just skipped the full day of learning and training because you're not going to get very much of it into your long-term memory.
I have to say that you just kind of blew my mind with that, because that is really powerful. And I don't think that people realize. And we live in a world in which, again, there's so many distractions, there's so many different things. I will tell you what my dirty little secret is. I have a hard time falling asleep. So we have gotten into the habit of, right, because it's a habit, we turn on the television and my husband doesn't have a problem falling asleep. He'll fall asleep and then I will fall asleep, but I know that I'm not getting the quality sleep because obviously the blue light is on. And I will turn it off when I wake up, but I do wake up a lot. And I find that, one, definitely I'm tired the next day. And two, that the days that I sleep less, I'm really not as sharp and my brain is not where it needs to be the next day. And I find myself really losing my train of thought or a lot of different things that, and by the way, I have better sleep now than I ever did in some ways, right? Because I used to tell myself the story and I was not a morning person. And then I realized, like, wait a minute, to be a morning person, I have to have a good time getting to bed first at a decent hour so I can get enough sleep. And I know that I like to get 7 hours of sleep. That's really my sweet spot. If I get less, if I get more, not necessarily great. But I know that there's a lot of people like me that may be, and especially, by the way, this is a podcast for many women who are in midlife, right? And we're going through the changes in
Yeah.
our bodies, and
Hormone
waking up, I
changes.
think, is part of the norm for us. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, well, one of the things to say, the blue light in the evening. Yeah. Basically what is happening, and we all have this problem because we have these phones we are addicted to. And so we all getting too much blue light in the evening. So basically what's happening is when we're going through those different cycles at night, when we get to the REM stage, that blue light is can be impacting your sleep cycles. And so you're waking up and you're only getting a few minutes of the genius lounge time. And
Ooh,
so, I mean, if you really want to get the best out of what you did during the day and be the best for the morning, it's really trying to do your best to get that blue light out of your evenings. And one of the very first tiny habits that we work on almost with everybody, or at least one I suggest, is managing your light. But the one I like to do is we set an alarm clock often to get up in the morning.
mhm.
Well, I like to say we need to set an alarm in the evening, and
Yeah.
that alarm is primarily to not really go to bed, but primarily to put your phone to bed, to tuck your phone away in bed. You can say good night bed to make it fun and give you your celebration dopamine,
Right.
but it's to start to allow the brain to calm down. To you can wear blue light glasses to help reduce it, but you're still just reducing
Right.
the
You're
amount.
not.
Yeah, and you really want to just give your brain time to calm down, so that way it can get ready and signals so your melatonin production can start, and you can get ready. You can get ready for that restful sleep. The other thing is about with light, and this is the other key thing, is that the other thing I say is, okay, we're doing light at night by putting our phone away, but we're also, the first thing in the morning is getting light as soon as possible, because we have a
Mhm.
master clock in our body. This is our circadian rhythm. We just all and when we're recording this, we just had a daylight savings
Yes.
time, so we all messed up our circadian rhythm. It's going to
Mhm.
take everyone a week to 10 days to recover from that.
Yeah.
Now, that's one of the best ways to do that, or to reset your circadian clock in general, depending if you're a shift worker, or you just had a, or we all are sometimes described as shift workers because of our digital lifestyles that
Right.
happen. But the key is to get sunlight first thing in the morning, and get it outside if possible, because
Mhm.
it's so much more powerful. And what it does is it signals to that master clock, hey, let's start the clock.
Yeah.
And in 14 to 16 hours later, the body's going to say, okay, 14, 16 hours have happened. It's time for us to start producing melatonin to
Mm.
fall asleep. So it doesn't matter when you get that outside light,
Yeah.
it's going to start 14 to 16 hours later. So if you have trouble going to sleep at night,
Okay.
it starts first thing in the morning, getting that sunlight.
Well, I love these. So I think I'm doing some things that maybe are in the right direction, and I'm gonna kind of work through some of these habits, right? So I have an alarm that goes off 9:30. It'll
Yeah,
say, "Hey, sleepy time," and that's when I'll make my tea,
love it.
and I will make my chamomile or my lemon tea, and I take it upstairs. And a lot of times I just read. But when my husband falls asleep, I honestly can't see with my little light anymore. So I really put the book down, and that's when the TV comes. But I'm not necessarily tired. And from hearing you speak, I, especially in the winter, I don't go outside very often in the morning. I do have a sun lamp, but I don't get that
Something.
light.
Yeah. But the outside light is so much, it's
Yeah.
infinitely more powerful. Like and if you have a environment where you get up in the morning, you get ready, you get
Mhm.
outside, or go in the garage and get in your car, and drive to work, get in the office, you're getting light, but you're getting it
Right.
all filtered through those
Right.
windows. And so the master clock is unsure if things have started. So it's like,
Oh,
so the 14 to 16
yeah.
hours,
I got
it's
it.
like,
Yeah.
it's fuzzy on the end. The other thing I heard you say was that you're in bed, but you're not tired.
Hmm.
So we're trying to associate things with tiny habits. We're trying to make an association.
Hmm.
When we do tiny habits, there's the prompt,
Yeah.
and there's the behavior, and the prompt is I'm getting into bed, and the behavior we want to have is that it's time, we're ready to go to sleep. But if we don't feel sleepy, the prompt is I'm in bed. It's my tossing and turning time. Now it's my rumination time. Now it's
Yeah.
my reading time. Now it's my TV time. It's not associating with crawling in bed with falling asleep.
Falling asleep. Yes. So
So,
good.
there's lots of things to do when we do our coaching, but one of them is around that association
Hmm.
is to if and sometimes and almost all the time when we're working on improving sleep, especially with you're describing some mild cases of insomnia here. What happens is your sleep kind of gets worse before it gets better, because
Hmm.
we say, okay, you're going to get up at the same time every day, but you're
Right.
not going to go to bed until you feel sleepy.
Hmm.
So at the beginning, you might like, oh, it's still staying up, but okay, now I don't feel sleepy. It's 10, it's 11, it's 12. I still don't feel sleepy. It's 1 o'clock. Okay, finally I feel sleepy, but I'm still going to get up at 7. And so,
Yes.
so for a little while, that's why adjusting the circadian clock can be a little bit difficult. And that's why lots of times people need a coach to do it, because then you start to get in that trough of despair, and then you fall back
Hmm.
again. And you just need someone to say, you're on the right track. To
Yeah.
have faith. We're doing this correctly. Everything, all these signs are saying that it's correct. And
Yeah.
this helps with that association of falling asleep.
So I love that. And I think that you're absolutely correct. I know, for instance, and by the way, I'm going to design a new tiny habits for myself, my morning habit. But you're right. The times in which no matter what, I get up, no matter what it is, then I start to catch up. I've seen it. But I seem to not have learned the lesson enough that I'm implementing it. But I think my new tiny habit design again is my prompt is, and by the way, this is my prompt to fill my water bottle. When I let my dogs out in the morning,
I love it.
I fill my water bottle, right? And I celebrate. That's everybody has heard me talk about this on the show. But I think my tiny habit is going to be when I let the dogs out in the morning, I'm going to walk out with them.
Step outside with them. Yeah. That's why dogs
Even
are
if it's
fantastic.
freezing.
Yeah, dogs are fantastic because
Yeah.
they are built for the circadian clock. They're
Yeah, they are.
designed to do that. They also are interesting because one of the other things about falling asleep in the evening is calming our nervous system. We get it all moving in a fast way to deal with the day. All the incoming information that we have, our phones, our devices, our blue light, it's all keeping
Yeah.
us in a sympathetic state where we're in alert and active and
Mhm.
on alert. To
Yeah.
calm our nervous system down in the evening, that's why putting the phone away does it. It starts to signal
Hmm.
for that. The breathing helps in the evening to
Hmm.
calm your nervous system, slow breathing, but also co-regulation does. So when you co-regulate, you're
Hmm.
co-regulating your nervous system with someone else's nervous system. This is why something,
Mm.
if you have someone who's anxious or in a state where they are in that sympathetic and they need to calm down, and saying calm down is not going to
No,
work,
no.
right.
I hope my
But
husband heard that.
all you need to do is calm down.
Yeah,
Like,
calm
I get
down.
it. But what you can do is give someone a hug and
Mm.
co-regulate your nervous system,
Love
your
that.
calm nervous system.
Yeah.
No words have to be said. No instructions of who's better or worse. It's
Right.
just a hug, and that's why
Mm.
also pets and dogs are great co-regulators, because they will naturally they want to be in a calm
Yeah.
state. So dogs are great for getting up in the morning to get you outside,
Yeah.
co-regulate your nervous system in the evening. I love
Okay, so I Yogi, and by the way, Yogi, he's definitely a special dog, but he really has a little clock If it's 5:30, right? He's like, excuse me, it's 5:30, come feed me.
Yeah.
And at night, if let's say maybe I'm staying up a little later, even though my phone said go to bed, he will sit next to me and look at the stairs, look at me, look at the stairs and cry until I actually go upstairs.
Yeah.
I can't stay. And there's times in which I will stay up late and he just kind of gives up and goes upstairs and he's like, okay, you're on your own, lady. But yeah,
I'm
he's
trying
very
to
good
help.
at that.
I'm trying to help.
Yeah, trying to help you. I guess I got to listen to that little rascal. Because, they are good co-regulators for sure. I think that, for so many of us, we live in a world in which we don't really learn this. And these are really key ingredients for us to work, live, love at our optimal. And we really are not giving these tools. How did you get started in really deciding that this is the area that you were going to focus on? Because you talked about being an entrepreneur at 25, right? But what was that shift?
Well, the shift was I had an office in the East Coast, an office in the West Coast, and every month back and forth, and which is fine at 25, was fine up at 30, but at some point it compounded itself on top of each other, and there was a point where I was I was able to rest, but I was not able to get fully into REM sleep, or where I could tell that my I was still had a too much sympathetic state going on, and it went on for a month. It resulted in really, even a little bit of this is almost akin to being a drunk driver. You are having that slow response system. Yeah. I went to my management team and I go, listen, I haven't been able to sleep well for a month now, and I know it's affecting my decision making. I need some help here, not with me getting better, but making sure that the decisions we're making are fully thought through and vetted. And then it led to a panic attack, went to the hospital. Wow. And so at that point, sleep, I put at the center of my life. And I'm like, okay, I need to, and like I said, when you're working on sleep at the center of your life, okay, that means when you get up, it means when you exercise, it means when you eat, it means when you are calming down in the evening, because I talked about that master clock, but every cell in our body has a clock in it, and for it to operate optimally, it gets set. The master clock says, okay, here's the clock we're going to run for today, people, and we run it. But if those are not operating at an optimal way, and you start eating late after certain organs have stopped doing their optimal performance for digestion, that's going to have to put resources in a different way. If you exercise too late, if you drink too late, then you're going to have your heart rate accelerated, and that's going to prevent your deep rest, and absolutely your REM sleep will be fragmented, and you'll barely get any genius lounge time. So turns out if you do drink, happy hour is the
optimal time.
Is the optimal time for drinking. You can have a drink or two. You get your de-stressing after work.
Everybody, we can still drink.
Get drinks out. You get your after work drinking and your socializing time. And I think it's really interesting, because people who live to all the people who live to 100 plus, I'll say, oh yeah, I drank, but they do it in a social setting, because we are such social creatures that getting that social time overrides the poison we're putting into our body. But so it basically, putting sleep at the center of my life then started to cascade around all the other things that would happen. And then you get your better memory, and you get your better focus. You show up for your team and your family better. And like, even I would go to the Burning Man festival, and that was
how fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's all day, all night, constant party. And I'd be out with my friends, and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going home. They're like, what do you mean you're going home? We're in the middle of this party. I go, yeah, I'm having a great time, and I want to be able to remember it. And the only way it's going to happen is if I go home and go to sleep, or go back to the trailer and go to sleep for a bit. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love it. I actually, this past weekend, we went out with friends. We went to a concert. It's a venue that has a lot of cover bands, and I love live music. I just love doing that. But number one, first of all, we ate late. I had a couple drinks while we were there. And then we came home. I was wide awake. And then, of course, we lost that 1 hour. So Sunday, I remember, and everything that you're talking about, right? My decision making, my ability to be able to be more focused and creative. Really, for Sunday, when we recorded the podcast, I made my husband redo the recording a couple times because I'm like, I'm not showing up here as the best possible. And it is really one of these keystone habits. And when I'm sleeping better, I also know that it affects all other habits. Do you want to talk a little bit about how one habit can help improve other habits?
Yeah, well, it doesn't like I was on a panel at South by Southwest recently, and we did a fun debate of like which it was mental health for entrepreneurs, and there's three panelists here, and we were talking about which one's better. Is it your mindset? Is it your spirit, or is it your body? Working on which one of those is going to be the better way for you to maximize your creativity, your innovation, your mental health, your performance overall. And I'll have to say, especially specifically with sleep, it's also improves all your long-term potential for mortality. So meaning anything, all the four top key things that are going to kill you are reduced when you get good sleep regularly.
Okay, well that's yeah, I'm going to make a bigger effort now.
But one of the things about the debate was interesting. We knew this as a fun thing for the panelists. It is we knew that, and we said it doesn't matter. These all work together. And just like any behavior design that when we talk about tiny habits, is start with something you enjoy and love, and then build from that. And that can be your keystone habit. If you say you want to run a marathon or climb a mountain or whatever your mountain or marathon is in your life, you want to be able to pick up your kids when your grandkids when you're older, whatever that why is, or what that really purpose you want to do, that's the best way to start building the habits that you want to have, because you're like, okay, what's something I love that can help me get down that direction? So I think that's the best keystone habit is starting with your why.
Well, this is amazing. And by the way, this morning I was actually listening to Simon Sinek talk about why. And he said one thing that really blew me away in this interview. He said that for many years, people would ask him, what do you read? And he would talk about all the different books that he had at his night table. But he said, I don't get through all these books. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to read them. It's just that I wasn't fully there, and I needed to rest more in order to kind of affect other areas of my life. And then, of course, he talks about he then shifted his why of why he wanted to read, and not so much, oh, I want to learn, but also because it's going to help him in other areas of his life. So that was just kind of interesting. Then start with why.
Well, you said about the story you told yourself is, I'm not a morning person, and I have, because also we hear, I have trouble sleeping at night. I can't fall asleep. This really gets into the cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia type pieces, and this is really where our sleep experts at Stamina Lab are phenomenal at working with, because that we can tweak some of these habits, but the mindset and the mindset beliefs are really what can really be a struggle that can be harder for you to solve on your own. And especially for entrepreneurs or any high performing professionals, or I always like to say that mothers and parents are high performing professionals.
Yes, they are.
If that's all they do. It is that to recognize that sleep is a productive time. Sleep is a productive time where I'm like, oh, I'm not being productive. I'd be more productive if I stayed up late and did this. Sleep is a productive time where you can, 10, 100x your performance during the day by allowing yourself that time to sleep. And I use this on myself as an entrepreneur almost every night, where I'm like, okay, I'm in bed. This is my productive time. This is my time to be able to access the Genius Lounge. This is my time to be able to rest and recover and turn things off. And it's okay. It's actually not okay. It's not only just okay. It will allow me to be a better performer tomorrow, allow me to take what I learned today or the problems I am addressing today and solve them, and really just internalize that this is productive time, and just making that shift from, oh, I should be doing this, I could be doing that, to this is the most productive time.
When we shoulda, woulda, coulda ourselves, we really are sending ourselves down this downward spiral, I think. And the power, what you just said, is that power of language really has an effect. I have talked about this example here. I used to say, I am not someone that can actually let plants live. I kill all plants. That was my saying. And until one day I thought, you know what? I am going to take care of these plants like they're my children. I'm going to shift what I'm saying, because every time I am saying I'm going to kill this plant, my brain's like, okay, we got to kill this plant. We're not going to water it. We're not going to nurture it. And as soon as I started to shift that tiny way in which I spoke about how I took care of plants, and by the way, I didn't shift to like, oh, I am like an expert with a green thumb. I went to like, I am a person that's working at making her plants live longer, right? And then all of a sudden I started to shift to the point that now I don't even have a place to put new plants in.
I see you got great plants in the background.
But yeah, so they keep growing. But I think that there's so much power. And this is what I love about the work that you're doing, that you're taking the behavior design, but you're using that approach also of shifting our mind and utilizing the power of our brains, that it's there all along for us. Tell me about the Stamina Lab.
Well, I think that I want to add one thing to the language shift, and I think it's so important, because when we have programs that we work on for resilience, and a lot of the resilience programs, obviously sleep is going to give you more resilience, but a lot of the resilience work we do is about shifting the language around what you say. And we have we call them 4 magic phrases. And these 4 magic phrases you can put at the end of any limiting statement or negative statement you have, and just crack the door open a little bit to have.
I need to know these.
to have the possibility, the growth mindset, the psychological flexibility, which we were trying. Psychological flexibility underlies resilience, and so just by adding these words at the end of these phrases, gives you that possibility, and they're at least, so far, right now, and not yet. So I am not a morning person right now, or so far, or at least I work on my sleep. At least I use the at least in the evening too as well, because there's a million things to do. The to-do list is infinite. And so at least I did this, at least I did this, at least I did this. Whatever you're working on, whatever your mountain that's you're climbing, whatever one that you're the challenge you're not telling anybody, add in at least I did this, or so far, or right now, or not yet.
Amazing. I love these, and I'm going to write them down. Well, I wrote them down, but I'm going to put them in the show notes for everybody, because I think that these are really key to, again, not going down the spiral, right? You're working on it. At least I'm getting there. So far, I'm a work in progress, right? And these words have such impact. I love that you are combining a lot of these modalities to help individuals. How does it work when you yourself are doing the work as well? Because I would imagine, as any coach, right, we're always continuing to iterate who we are. How do you then start to iterate for yourself? And then how do you incorporate that in the coaching that you do?
Yeah. So, I think being an entrepreneur is the ultimate self-development program, every day you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and you're bumped up against something that is challenging you and requiring some psychological flexibility to be able to handle what's coming at you. And I think that's why the panel that we did on entrepreneurship and mental health, or professionals in mental health, is so profound, because you can always, we have 60,000 up to 60,000 thoughts a day. And I think it's like 85% of them are negative, because we have a negative bias to save us from the lions from eating us.
Yes.
And so that work of practicing opening up that window of tolerance, expanding that window of tolerance, that crack of the door that we were just talking about, just giving that much bigger, wider breadth in that crack of the door, being more practiced at doing that, allows for that thinking to just become intrinsic. And I think that allows for modeling that behavior. It allows it to become so much more automatic in the coaching, and with my team that we have, who also teach me every day. They're even more brilliant than me. So I mean, being humble to the fact that oh, okay, yes, I said that wrong. You're right, I caught myself. We even talk about sleep coaches even have sleep challenges, and I think that's important for people to understand, because life is being thrown at you, and we have to practice the practice. This is well-being is not a destination; it is a practice.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I am a big proponent of knowing that it's all about the journey and not where we're going to get there.
And I think the last point I would like to make on that is that, we talk about that there's no failure. There's just learning. And that's why giving yourself this grace, this being kind to yourself, using those magic words, expanding that psychological flexibility, and continuing to practice that. It's that you asked me what Stamina Lab is, and Stamina Lab is the lab that fuels your energy and focus and resilience, but you are your own lab. You
Excellent.
are your own experiment, and you are your own best coach.
That's amazing. And by the way, I agree with you. I am my best client, honestly. And if I were paying myself, I would be doing much better, because I love being able to say, what can I do today that is going to make me that person that I want to get to tomorrow? Right. And really using that wisdom. But we have to really remember that just because something didn't work doesn't mean that we failed. And that's where a lot of people tend to get stuck on. And I love that you're talking about you experiment. It's okay trying something new, being curious, saying, oh, okay, I tried that. It didn't work. Let me try it this way, or pursue this.
Being curious and not certain. Being curious and not certain. That is the mindset shift that often helps people, because when we're curious, we are experimenting, we are learning, we are able to see other points of view, and when we are certain, and that happens at a biological level. When we open up, we expand our thinking, we expand the connections in our brain, and when we are certain, they actually constrict, and so that prevents ideas from going from different parts of our brain and our body to be able to talk to us. That includes our gut into that piece, because when we're certain, we are rigid, and when we are curious, we're open.
So the dogs are agreeing with everything that you're saying, Glenn. They're definitely thinking like, oh my God, he's definitely got it together. I want to know, for you, the work that you're doing, it's really impacting the lives of others. But what is the satisfaction for you being in this line of work? What is the one thing that you know for certain your work is doing?
I know that when when we work with people and they show the improvement in their sleep, and they give us feedback about what that means to them and what difference it's making in their lives, that's really where the energy and fuel comes from, because you have tangible notes and feedback about, even if it's someone responding to the podcast and being like, oh, that you took that complicated thing that expert just said and summed it up in a way that I'm like, now I get it. And so even if they weren't a paying client with us, but they got something out of the podcast or something like that, I love getting those messages. And I think that's really where the fuel that helps me go every day.
Well, I love that. And I think that that's really one of the reasons that we keep doing what we do, right? Getting that one person that says thank you. And we're just trying to do our best every day. We're working at it. For the people who are listening and they hear me talk about being a Tiny Habits coach, you are a Tiny Habits coach, why would you tell someone that being a Tiny Habits coach is the way to go?
That's a good question. I think if it's something that you want to be able to be better at implementing into your life, or especially if you're a leader or a mother or father, to be able to implement or model it with the people that look up and follow you. I think it's a fantastic methodology, and it's simple but not easy. So by learning it and practicing it, being able to share it with other people, I think the rewards that come back to you, the energy that comes back to you is just something that you can't put a price tag on.
Oh, so good. So good. You're incredibly gracious with your time, as always. The conversations with Tiny Habit individuals and people who are into behavior design and the science of the brain always, keep me going. I do want to ask you one more question, because I think that this is something that I need to know. Is there something that you want to leave us with, or something that I didn't ask you that you feel would be valuable for the listeners today?
Well, I think I would hark back to the thoughts around change in general is to start small, do something you enjoy, have a why to figure out what that is, and be kind to yourself. Change isn't easy, but it's doable, and the stronger your why, the much easier it becomes.
So good. And I know that you're online, you have a podcast. Tell the listeners where they can connect with you. How can they leverage your expertise, the expertise of your team? Where can they find you? Yeah,
so visit staminalab.io, and you can find the podcast there. You can take a resiliency self-assessment. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which has all kinds of great
amazing
tools in there. And if you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on Twitter X at Glen Lubbert, Glen Lubbert, Lubbert. Same thing on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Amazing. Well, we're going to have all the information in the show notes. I know that you gave us some wonderful links that we'll share with the listeners as well, so they can connect with you. I really want to encourage you, everybody. If this episode has taught us anything, is that sleep can make us better, can increase our confidence, can help us go after our dreams. So make sure that you take notes. Go back and take notes if you were walking around or driving while you were listening to this episode. So thank you again to the listeners, and thank you for sharing this episode, because if you share this, you may impact the lives of others. So until next time, thank you, Glen. And don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Thanks for listening to Casa de Confidence. We thank you for listening, and if you want more, go to casadeconfidencepod.com. Check Julie out on her socials as Julie DeLucca-Collins. And you can also check out her website at goconfidentlycoaching.com. Have a great week, and don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all, but the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business, push you behind your current limits, expand your connections, discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the six-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly Julie's Mastermind.